Everybody all set? I'll start off with giving you guys, once again, my name and information. My name is Lee White, W-H-I-T-E. Our public information officer is Jared Reneau, R-E-N-E-A-U, and he's also a persons crime detective for our agency, and he'll be able to answer some of the more specific questions regarding what's transpired over the past 48 hours or so. So most of you know what's occurred so far. Let me just kind of bring you up to date as to what we know to be true at this point. Kyle Odom was apprehended safely and without incident in Washington, D.C. this evening. The initial information I have is that apparently he flew from Boise Airport to Washington on March 7th. He was apprehended today at 8:27 p.m. Eastern Time outside the White House by the Secret Service. Initial reports indicate that he had thrown several items over the fence of the White House. The initial information I'm receiving is that those included some flash drives along with some other unknown items. It's my understanding that the hazmat and bomb teams are working to identify those items. Mr. Odom's car has been located and is currently being secured by law enforcement in Boise. I have a brief statement that I'd like to read to you from the family of Mr. Odom. It reads, "We are thankful for the safe apprehension of our son Kyle. As Kyle was not living with us, we are learning of his plans as they are being revealed by the police. We are truly thankful to God he is safe and no one else has been injured. Please respect our family's privacy at this difficult time." One of the things I think that is incredibly important and that I need to touch on is the men and women of the Coeur d'Alene Police Department have worked tirelessly since we were first notified of this case, to fully investigate it, and they've worked cooperatively with our county attorney's office, our law enforcement partners in the region, our federal partners, and really they've done an exceptional job to bring this case to a successful and safe conclusion. And the second thing I want to say is the community over this incident has really galvanized. They've come together once again, and I think everyone can breathe a big sigh of relief that this, at least this part of the case, has come to a conclusion. And with that, I'll take any questions you have.
So, can you tell me a little bit more about his flight plans? He flew out of Boise on March 7th.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you know where he went from?
I don't have his exact itinerary. You have to understand this is relatively new information. We are learning things literally by the minute, more details about his travel plans and his apprehension and the status of what's occurring currently at the White House. When we're done with this, Detective Reneau can give you the Secret Service Public Information Officer contact, so details regarding that incident can be directed to that appropriate agency.
Do you know the exact time he was taken into custody?
At 8:27 Eastern Time.
Do you know if he had any weapons on him at the time of his arrest?
I don't have that information. They're still looking through the items that he had in his possession. I can only speculate at this point. I would rather not do that. I'm sorry. I was told that he was taken into custody safely and without incident, and at least on his person when they took him into custody, he did not have a firearm with him.
Do you know how he was able to board a flight? I mean, had there been any kind of hold put on his name through the airlines by that point?
Sure. We took a number of steps. You have to realize, as soon as he was identified on Sunday evening, we took measures to try to locate him. And once we were unable to, we put a warrant in the system in our national database for attempted first-degree murder to any law enforcement agency that would stop him, let him know that he's a wanted person, and be taken into custody. As far as in the inner workings of TSA and how someone with a felony warrant could board an airplane, I'm not the person to answer that question. I'm sorry.
Did you guys, when you received the manifesto this morning, did you alert the White House? I mean, it wasn't just Obama. There were several politicians mentioned.
And before I answer that, I have to say something regarding your news agency. Thank you guys very much for how you handled that situation. That was a great partnership, frankly, between the media and law enforcement. So the direct answer to your question is yes. Once we got the information and realized the scope of really who could be in danger in this case, we alerted everybody. Our federal partners were brought in. We were in contact with the Secret Service. We began to alert really anybody who we thought may be in danger. The second person here locally who was specifically mentioned in that document was John Padula. And I will tell you that immediately upon learning that his name was specifically mentioned in there, along with Pastor Tim, we put a protection detail on him and his family to ensure his safety. Mostly because we were, at that time, not 100% positive of his whereabouts. As you alluded to, there's a number of people that were listed in the manifesto. There's a number of U.S. senators and House of Representatives people, along with, help me out, some Israeli government officials. It was extensive, and it was disturbing to us. Look, I hope I made it clear that first evening that the information that we gleaned through our interviews and through review of the evidence on scene, the videotape of his actions, caused us quite a bit of concern. And so we took this very seriously, and I think I made that pretty apparent that first night. It was all hands on deck for us, and I can't say enough about the amazing effort between our detectives and the county attorney's office and our other partners in law enforcement to bring this case to a conclusion as quickly as humanly possible. These guys have done an amazing job. Our community should be very, very proud of them.
Do you think it was him who was on Facebook today?
You know, I can't say that definitively. The information that was posted on Facebook is consistent with other information that we had received through flash drives. Specifically, who posted that, I would be speculating. I personally think it's probably him, because all the information that we have so far indicates that he's acted alone. But once again, it would just be speculation at this point.
Do you firmly believe that the manifesto sent to KHQ and his family, that it was written by Odom?
As far as I know, yes, ma'am. Once again, that's just speculation on my part.
If he was using social media this morning, if he was on Facebook, was that activity, did that play a role in locating him at all? He was on a phone?
I'm not going to speak to the specific methods that we used to track his whereabouts and take him into custody, or the specific things that law enforcement did to try to take him into custody, mostly because I don't want to screw up something in the future.
Were you able to determine he was in Washington, D.C. before he showed up at the White House?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think I can comment just a little bit about that. We had received information probably, well, it was actually very soon prior to his apprehension that he was in Washington, D.C. Working with our local law enforcement FBI partners, they were able to make contacts back there in D.C. And did a fantastic job of trying to locate him. And as it turns out, things kind of happened simultaneously with us the Federal Bureau of Investigation trying to locate him there in D.C. and then his incident at the White House were just about simultaneous.
So he threw the items at the White House and was arrested very shortly after doing that?
Yeah, specifically how the arrest took place, I think we're probably going to have to ask the Secret Service about that. The information that I gave you is really all that I have. It's just that he was seen throwing something over the White House fence. He was contacted by Secret Service and then identified and apprehended.
Do you know when he'll be extradited back to Coeur d'Alene?
No, that's a process that we can probably ask the county attorney about, but there is a process in place that he'll have to go through before he's extradited back here. As far as the timing of that, that's probably a better question for our county attorney.
Did his social media posts help aid in his knowing where his location was or anything like that?
You know, if anything, I think his social media posts gave us some insight into his psyche, and I think it helped us as far as the specific apprehension methods that we used. I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about that.
Could you talk any more about his psyche at all? Or if that was, I'm sure that was such a big concern for you guys.
It was. You know, oftentimes when you have major incidents, there's some pre-attack or some other type of indicators that really, that law enforcement always has to examine after and say, what could we have done to prevent this? And then once something like this happens, is there something else we can do as law enforcement to make sure our community is protected and safe? I got to believe that we did everything we could possibly do. What he wrote definitely played a part in raising our level of awareness and concern.
Do you think the city of Coeur d'Alene will sleep a little bit better tonight, Chief?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. I think we'll all sleep just a bit safer, or better tonight.
Is any word from Secret Service of what his mindset, his mental state or emotions were like at the time of his arrest?
You know, I didn't speak with anybody directly with the Secret Service. Jared, would you like to talk about that, or is that something better directed to the Secret Service themselves?
A little bit better, excuse me, to the Secret Service. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. Barry, would you like to say something regarding the next steps in the process?
Sure.
So as far as the next steps, obviously the Secret Service will be conducting their investigation and evaluating whether or not any charges will be filed in the District of Columbia. And I just don't think we have enough information to even speculate as to what might happen there. So once that process is completed, there's a warrant that's outstanding, and we'll be extraditing him back to Kootenai County to face the existing charge.
Will there be any other charges brought forward?
Well, we'll certainly look at all the information. There's, I think as the chief alluded to, there's still a lot of investigation yet to be done here, Boise now, in D.C. as well. So, you know, we'll be looking at all the information as the investigation continues, and I wouldn't want to speculate at this point.
Do you know if his car was at the airport in Boise?
That's something I'd have to defer to the chief on.
The specific location of the vehicle, I don't know exactly. I would just tell you it's in the city of Boise, and law enforcement personnel have secured that vehicle for us at this point.
Was anything of note found inside the vehicle?
As far as I know, right now the vehicle is just being secured, and I think we're doing that based on the outcome of what was located in Washington, D.C.
Are you waiting on a first search warrant?
Well, certainly that would be a step in the process, yes, ma'am. And I got to tell you, back to your earlier question, I think the community of Coeur d'Alene can sleep easy, but our detectives certainly won't be. They still got a lot of work to do, and although they've been pretty much round the clock since this incident happened on Sunday afternoon, they still got a lot of work ahead of them to put together a case that the county attorney can move forward in the process. And I got to thank Barry and his office. They were fantastic through every step of the investigation. We had Jed out there on scene that night to provide guidance and that sort of thing, and we've worked with them pretty much daily since then, so they've been absolutely fantastic. Our federal partners have been hugely important. It was a good cooperation all the way around. Any other questions for us?
Do you have any idea what time that flight was on March 7th?
No, ma'am. I don't have his itinerary.
Do you have any idea when he purchased the ticket?
No, ma'am. I'm sure that's details that we'll vet out in the next few days. I just don't have that available right now.
About how many people were listed in that manifesto, approximately?
You know, I'd be guessing, but I would say there's probably maybe a dozen or 15 or so U.S. senators, along with probably twice that amount from the U.S. House, and probably half again that amount from the Israeli government. There was quite a few names on that list.
Were there direct threats to those people? Were their names just thrown out? What was kind of the nature of?
It's an interesting read. It's more rambling than anything. There was really no specific, I'm going to kill this individual type of threats. But still, given the nature of what we knew about Mr. Odom, and of course the attack on Sunday, and then some of the other things that we were able to piece together over the last 48 hours or so, causes quite a bit of concern. So we didn't take the names on there lightly, I will tell you that. It was, as soon as we received that information, we passed it on immediately.
Chief, did you have an opportunity to speak with members of the pastor's family after the arrest?
No, sir. This has all transpired, as you know, just in the last couple hours. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
All right, so that is going to be a wrap on that update out of Idaho in regards to the shooter. We know that that shooter